So, Miko, if you were a vampire and when you became a vampire, you got a special power, what do you think your vampire bonus power would be?
Okay, I thought about this a lot, and I chose something that I think I already do as a human because that feels true to the lore. So I think I would be able to sense someone's creative potential, and then I would annoy them with cheerful pep talks until they pursued their dream.
Okay. I don't know if I have enough self awareness to really pick a good one. Part of me feels like it would be not all the time, but I feel like sometimes I'm good at telling people what they want to hear, which feels a little bit like a mind reading or like an empathy type of power. But that feels like a cop out because those are two powers that exist in the thing we're going to talk about. So
But that's okay. I don't know. Maybe it's like the fact that you read really fast.
I would get like a vampire photographic memory, just like
Yes.
vampire like snapshot memory. That would be pretty cool.
You're already reading audiobooks at 2 times speed, so maybe as a vampire you can read at 10 times speed or more.
Okay, that seems right. Or maybe I would have like a really good memory because I feel like I have a
Yeah.
pretty decent memory already for details. So maybe I would just have like the most amazing memory.
Yeah, which means everyone would be trying to kill you to cover up their crimes over the centuries. It's a rough life.
I'd have to keep it a secret
All right, and why are we talking about vampire bonus powers today, Liz?
because today we're going to talk about Twilight.
That's right, we're going to talk about Twilight.
I am your host, Liz.
And I'm your host, Miko. And this is the Hot Baddies Club.
Cue awesome intro music.
I love those hot baddies. Hot Baddies Club with Miko. I just can't help myself. I just can't help myself. I love those hot baddies. I love those hot baddies. Hot Baddies Club.
This is a special episode, not just because we're talking about Twilight, but also because this is our season finale. So we have another 7 episodes planned, but I was feeling bogged down by the idea that we were only halfway done recording, and I really wanted to get stuff out. So we reassessed, and we're going to release everything up till this point and see what it's like to release a podcast.
We're learning. Yeah, so we have tons of content planned and we want to start getting some feedback. So everything they've listened to so far, we've pre-recorded. There might be some little snippets here and there where we update as the episodes come out, but this will be kind of our break point as we finish up season 1.
Yep, I think that about covers it. So we are talking about Twilight, and I'm going to do an introduction to Twilight in case you've been living under a rock or something. Who doesn't know what Twilight is?
People who are looking up this podcast probably know what Twilight is. I'll just really quick what our podcast is. If this happens to be your first episode, if you're coming in because you like Twilight and you like to listen to every Twilight episode, welcome. We embrace you. We are the Hot Baddies Club. We are a podcast that focuses on characters that have a little bit of a bad side that we also have fictional crushes on. And so every character we do 2 episodes. This one is the spoiler-free episode where we talk about why we think you might want to get to know this character. And in the next episode, we'll do the spoilers and we'll talk about lots more information about what is going on in this series and this character. And in this case, it is a special one because Twilight is so big of a topic. We're mostly focusing on Edward, but we're also switching up our format a little bit. So I'll let Liz go now and tell you all about who Edward is, what Twilight is, if you are not sure about this or if you've never dived as deep as we are about to get in this franchise.
Okay, yeah. Twilight consists of 4 core books: Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn. I wrote Breaking Down. Okay. There's 2 retellings: Midnight Sun, which is retelling of the saga from Edward's point of view, and Life and Death, which is the gender bent one. The genders of the 2 main characters flip. And then there's a novella called The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner. All these books were written by Stephanie Meyer, and they were published between 2005 and 2008. Although I think actually those extra books were published after 2008, I'm pretty sure. And a summary of the series, how do you even summarize Twilight? Okay, it's a young adult fantasy romance, kind of. Also, I think you could classify it as paranormal because there's like vampires and stuff, in which a teenage girl moves to the town of Forks, Washington, and starts a very intense relationship with a boy in her high school who ends up being a vampire. Drama ensues. That's my like 1 sentence synopsis.
Yeah, it counts as a paranormal romance, I think.
I just didn't see it written that way, or not classified that way, but I don't know if that's because did people call things paranormal before this at this time?
I don't know when it started.
Me neither. Like, I know books existed, but now we're in like such a special age of like paranormal plus monster romances that I don't know when that term came about.
I think you see supernatural a lot too.
Yeah.
Like, it's like everything's fantasy until it's not.
Yeah.
Like, they took a couple things from fantasy and they're like, you go in this category now. And those things are usually vampires and werewolves.
Oh, that's true. I thought paranormal was also like, it was that there's non-human people that live in contemporary times or something. I don't even know. We need to page Fated Mates and have them do like a paranormal history breakdown.
Yeah, we need like a literary agent to break it all down for us.
Okay, so that was the 1 sentence summary. The movie adaptations were released from 2008 to 2012 and made $3.3 billion at the box office cumulatively, which is 5 movies because they split the last movie into 2 movies. The books were huge. Everyone of a certain age knew what it was, I think. And then once the movie started coming out, like everyone knew what it was. It was like a household name. Like everyone knows what Twilight is at that point. Even if you didn't fully understand what it was, you knew it was a thing. You knew there was like Team Edward and Team Jacob. It was like to the level of local newscasters talking about it, you know, like everyone talks about this. The books were beloved, obviously, by many teenage girls. That was like the core demographic, I'm sure, not just girls and not just teenagers either, and kind of derided by everyone else for many, many reasons, which we'll kind of discuss later on. Some of the big ones being the writing quality was a thing that people really talked about a lot. And another thing that people would discuss negatively was that it was a bad model of relationships for teen girls. Those were like some of the big criticisms that people had. But the movies were huge blockbusters with mixed to poor critical reception. The highest rating on Rotten Tomatoes is 49%, which is tied between the first and the last movie. And the lowest rating is 25% for Breaking Dawn Part 1. So
I can't believe that's the one that's the low. I can't believe any of these stats.
Yeah.
I've watched these movies so many times. I would disagree with the lowest one being Breaking Dawn Part 1.
I don't even know, but I wanted to get some things that I thought were surprising, and this was one of the most surprising ones to me.
Yeah.
And then I had some records also, just so we can contextualize how big these movies were and books were. So this is specifically about movies. New Moon was the biggest midnight opening in domestic box office history, so that's US and Canada. It beat Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. It made history for the biggest single-day opening, beating The Dark Knight. It was in the top 10 for most money at the box office in a single day. At the time, once the MCU spun up, though, like it dominates all the charts, so it's not in the top 10 anymore. New Moon was the 9th highest opening weekend in domestic history and 6th highest worldwide opening weekend. Breaking Dawn Part 2 is currently 22 in terms of highest opening weekends because it got destroyed by all the MCU movies.
My mind is so blown already. I'm like, why New Moon? Why? I guess we'll get into it later. We have a section just about werewolves, so I'm so confused. But that's mind blowing. Like the power of all of that, the power of how many people loved this and supported it or wanted to see it.
Yeah, so whether you love it or hate it or feel completely indifferent towards it, you can't deny that these books and movies changed young adult fiction, vampires, adaptations, fandom, and romance forever. This was a big deal in terms of the history of all those aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I just want to add in, like, why are we covering it? And I think we're going to get a little more into it, but
yeah,
because we talked about love it, hate it, or indifferent, this is not a hate podcast, and this is not like a hate episode. So I figure I'll just throw that out right now. I think you're more of a fan of it than I am, but I always tell people that I'm like a fan of the phenomenon. I'm like so fascinated by how it all works, how this was the franchise that everybody fell for and why. I don't know if that even makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like such a ramble, but we're definitely like approaching this in a positive light, I guess.
Yeah, we're not going to pick it apart. This is going to be a little different. We're going to have some different sections, but this is not a hate cast. We don't really do those.
And usually on our podcast, we'll pick one character from a series. Sometimes we do multiple characters that we want to focus on. But for this time, we're going to be focusing on Edward. How would you describe him, Liz?
Yeah, we are focusing on Edward, not because we're not picking a side, Team Jacob, Team Edward, or whatever. It's because the series, yes, Jacob is very important in Bella's life, but the series is about the relationship between Bella and Edward. And also, since this episode is very focused contextually on our history, I'll be completely honest, when I first read these books, before like Team Edward and Team Jacob started, it did not occur to me at any moment that Jacob was actually in contention for like winning Bella over. And that's nothing against Jacob. It's nothing against Jacob fans or Team Jacob or whatever. It's just like, it's inevitable. Okay, like that's how the series is. So that's just what we're focusing on, but we will also talk about Jacob a little bit.
There'll be a little section for Jacob later.
Okay, so Edward, if you don't know, is the main love interest of the Twilight books. He's an odd boy at Bella's high school. Bella's the main character, Bella Swan. And then we have Edward Cullen at her high school in Forks, Washington. He's the eldest son of the Cullen family, and he is pretending to be 17, but is actually over 100 years old. Yes, that's weird.
He's actually old, but compared to other actually old characters, being 100 is like a baby. So
still maybe shouldn't date a 16-year-old girl, but that's
gosh,
kind of the whole thing.
Jacob is a werewolf. So yes. In the most plain terms, this is a story about a human girl and there's two guys in love with her, and one's a vampire, one's a werewolf. It's classic.
Yeah, classic love triangle, classic vampire, werewolf, human girl love triangle. So Miko, when did you first hear about Twilight?
Twilight has a big part of my life starting in my college years, because a friend gave me the first book when it came out, knowing that I liked supernatural books and I liked romance books. And it was not like a cultural phenomenon yet. So it was just by happenstance that this friend was like, oh yeah, we both read a lot. This came out. People really like this book. Check it out. The second book wasn't even out yet. And I honestly just like, I read the book and I thought, hey, this is pretty good. It's a lot like Vampire Diaries. So a lot of my feelings about this are going to be really tied up with L.J. Smith and Vampire Diaries, because those were books that I read when I was like a preteen, and they were really like important to me. And I have like all of the L.J. Smith books from that era, all of her books are like love triangle. There's two guys, one guy's really nice and the other guy is the bad boy, and one or both of the guys will be a monster of some kind. In Vampire Diaries, like I think in the first one, there's not just the two vampire brothers, but there's also a werewolf guy that gets introduced. Mm-hmm. And she even has another book series, Night World, later, where there is a vampire and werewolf, two guys duking it out, love triangle. So that was kind of the most I thought about it. At that time, had no idea it was going to be so big. I wish I could have predicted the future and like put fake stock into this book going big or something, but I probably would not have. I just thought, this is weird. And they kind of ripped off Vampire Diaries, and that was the end of it. That's pretty much it, except for then my college friends getting really, quote, ironically into Twilight. And as a result, I went to every midnight premiere of every movie because, you know, we had to go there ironically. And it was pretty clear that everybody was actually a super fan, but because we were in college, no one wanted to admit it. So it was just me, having not read the book, sitting there in a packed theater with the super hardcore Twilight fans.
What a special experience for you. You literally didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was a special experience because there is so much energy in the room throughout every movie. But Liz, you have a much deeper history with Twilight. So tell me, what was it like the first time you saw that this was a book, that you came into contact with it?
Okay, I do kind of remember this because I used to go to Barnes and Noble. I would spend like 2 hours in Barnes and Noble and just look and like read the inside cover of every book in the YA section and carefully pick out how much I could spend and like get the 10 books or whatever at a time, you know, every few months if I could. And I just remember it must have just come out. It was just on the shelf. I double checked when I was at my mom's house and I saw my copies. They're all first edition. So they had just come out. Oh my
gosh.
Just on the shelf. They're just there. I remember the cover being really striking and being like, oh, what's that? Picked it up because they did have these really striking covers that were like black with like a very brightly colored, what's on the first one? An apple?
It's the apple.
And I picked it up and I was like, yeah, I want to read this. And I was obsessed. I loved this book. I probably stayed up all night finishing it. I wanted more. I didn't really get into like fan fiction as much, but I do remember I was looking up a bunch about Stephanie Meyer. And then I found out this is such a relic of the time. I can't imagine this happening today, especially for a young adult novel because of the liability probably. But there was a chat room on the Stephanie Meyer website for fans to just sit in there and hang out and chat with each other. And I spent many hours in this chat room. And I actually have a couple times tried to see if the magic of the internet could help me find my old Twilight chat room friends like Bookie, Frisia, Libby. And then there was also like Amy and Jonathan. I remember them. But there was this drama where some people in the chat room thought that Amy and Jonathan were the same person. And it was just one person pretending to be a brother and sister and like making up all this drama. So I have no idea if that was true or not, but it was super gossip in the Stephanie Meyer fan chat room.
Okay, like I definitely did that in a chat room before. I'm not Amy and Jonathan. Could you imagine if I was though and we didn't know?
Yeah, what if you were Amy and Jonathan?
I definitely did that before, not to like make fun of people, but I was just curious if I could get away with it. And I got away with it one time, but another time I didn't because they were like, everybody's at the same IP address. So I was busted really fast.
Yeah.
I choose to believe in Amy and Jonathan. Even if they are the same person, it's fine, you know?
Yeah. I don't remember feeling one way or the other about it, but I don't remember what I said. Oh, I'm not going to totally out my username because there's like really embarrassing stuff that I have out on different websites but I was Rainy. Brady was my name. Anyway, so I was obsessed. I hung out in there a bunch. I reread the books, which I don't really reread books very often. So by the time the books were like finishing, because I graduated 2009, there was a senior high school literary journal where anybody could submit writing that could get published. It just had to be like approved by whoever was in that club, the literary journal club, writing club. And I submitted some poems and I submitted like the first chapter of the story that I had been writing that was actually like fairly popular on fanfiction.net. And I feel like my hopes and dreams got crushed after this because I did not keep writing. Basically, somebody read it in writing club and was like, this is Twilight fan fiction. And there's nothing in there except for one thing, which is just that the person obviously had supernatural abilities and they had amber eyes, but there were no characters, there were no anything. Like there was no Edward wasn't in it, Bella wasn't in it. It was just loosely inspired and maybe set in the same world, but there's no characters. You know, it wasn't set in Forks or whatever. But somebody in writing club read this and was like, this is Twilight fanfic. And my friend who had asked me if I wanted to submit stuff was like, somebody said it was Twilight fanfic. Is it Twilight fanfic? And I was so embarrassed that I was just like, no, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, just don't publish that part. I don't want to talk about it. And so it wasn't in there. And yeah, that's probably part of the reason I did not show my writing to anyone for a very long time until recently. And that was like 20 years ago. So
thanks a lot, High School Literary Arts Club. Even though I was the editor of my literary arts club, I'm also going to yell about it. Oh my gosh. Okay, I haven't been emoting much because I'm just like sitting here grinning. Like, I can't believe we're talking about this so much. First of all, your old mates from the chat room, what if we find them? Like, this is their chance.
I know.
I just want to encourage anybody who had a good time hanging out in the Stephanie Meyer chat room to reach out to us. Like, we're on all our social medias, you know, and in the show notes, we'll probably have some more info and stuff. I mean, I've started hanging out on the internet, like, when there was like no search engines and stuff. So just thinking about all the friends you kind of made and how they all mostly drifted apart. You can hear more about my story from the Vegeta episode. Those are the friends I kept on with the whole time, but most people you lose, and that's probably fine too. You may have grown up totally differently in your life, but it's so interesting to think that you could reconnect like this, like many years later, right? Like, it's exciting. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the person I was closest to was Bookie, and I don't even know why I stopped hanging out in there. I mean, I had undiagnosed ADHD, so that's probably has something to do with it. Yeah, it would be cool if I could digitally reconnect with some of those people. Also, I don't want to make it sound like I was like hot shit in that chat room either. I was probably like a big weirdo, so.
Well, but when a bunch of weirdos get together, then nobody's a weirdo, right? Like, that's the fun of it.
That's true.
Yeah, and then the whole like Twilight fanfic thing is like, what if the people from your literary journal think that you wrote 50 Shades of Grey? Like, what they're like, you know, what if that's what that became or something?
That would be pretty funny. I am not E.L. James, but it would be funny if somebody from my high school thought I was.
But it is a shame that would make you feel shy about showing your writing to anyone else. There was such a large chunk of time when it was like admitting that you wrote fan fiction would be such a problem. Anyway, yeah, it is fascinating because essentially Twilight established brand new tropes that never existed before. So having golden eyes, I'm not even sure that came from Twilight, the idea of like your eyes changing color based on whether you're drinking human blood or not. But either way, I think it's a thing now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people would think that was weird at all. I guess I'll have to go open Vampire Diaries and see what they did in that, because it was definitely a thing. And then it's also a thing, not with those colors, but in the Immortals After Dark romance series, right? Like drinking humans dead makes your eyes turn red, right?
Yeah.
So Cressley Cole is also writing Twilight fan fiction.
Well, Immortals After Dark was started like not too long after that, right? Not that it's fan fiction, but I'm curious.
This is one of our favorite romance series that we recommend to everybody. So, and hopefully we'll get to talk about later. Okay, what's happening?
Twist. The first book of Immortals After Dark came out in 2006. So they were written like at the same time.
Oh, really?
How wild is that?
That is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All speculation.
So this is all relative to what we will talk about more in the next episode as well, which is kind of about fandom and how fandom gets put down a little bit. And I definitely relate to that. I tried so many times in my life to hide my fandom obsessions from people. And now I've just had to, now I've given up enough that my real name is on this podcast. So there you go. That's the world we live in now. Yeah, so that's our first times that we got in contact with this series. We're going to wrap up this episode and go on to the next episode, which will be about the spoilers and really diving into it. But first, there's a couple different sections we do. One is reasons why we think you might like Twilight if you have not ever read it or ever watched the movies. And then we're also going to give our little bit on how you can be ready for the spoilers, what you should consume before the next episode. So first, what things might indicate that someone would like this series, Liz?
I mean, if you want to know when we all got on the monster romance train, this is like something to know that it existed and what it was like for a historical reason. So like if you like monster romance
is, I don't know if it's just that people are more open-minded about talking about it, but it feels like it's super big right now. It's popping off.
Yeah, we're definitely having a moment.
And when we say monster romance, essentially like it's like we've gone beyond like, oh, the pretty men have fangs. It's like the pretty man is half spider and also covered in spider hair and definitely has as like many eyes as a spider and as many legs.
And many other things as a spider.
Or like so and so just is an actual sleep demon that is the romantic love interest.
Yep.
Or, you know, this one is like orcs, like one of my favorite books, Girls Weekend, where the elf girls go on vacation to the orc nudist tourist area. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Like things have taken a turn. Women are like women are no longer satisfied reading about human men, apparently.
Yeah, we're over it.
Or at least there's certain subcultures going on. So, but it all kind of begins here, right?
Okay. So another thing, if you're into any of those teenage angsty things, talk about this one, Miko. I don't feel like I said that good.
If you like teenage angst, so the young adult romance, I feel like always has like super passionate, if we don't get to be with each other, we'll die. Like it's just like so intense. And this book series is like the perfect example of that. Like it's super juicy, like how much they feel about each other and how passionate it is. Even if there's not a lot of intimate contact shown on the pages, it's all about the feeling and the yearning for each other. That's so, I guess, representative of that. So if you like teenage angst and monsters, if you're interested in just the cultural phenomenon of all of it, or the fandom, as we started to talk about, I think that's really interesting. If you're someone who's in a fandom or really likes to learn about them, this is a really good series to understand. And also young adult history. I mean, this was a huge deal.
If you did not participate at all when it was first happening and you're like, okay, what actually is it? Here's a good excuse to actually check it out for yourself and not just absorb everyone's opinions through osmosis. Because I almost guarantee a lot of the people who were complaining about Twilight probably never even read it.
It was just so different from anything we had seen before. And if you weren't into it, you may not have understood why it was so popular, right? So there are problems with this story. There is stuff in it that at the time maybe we didn't totally know was problematic, and now we do know. We're going to lightly touch on that next episode. So don't, like, it is a normal response to read this and have some things stand out to you, like, oh, that's really bad, or like, that makes me uncomfortable, because that I think, yeah, I could totally see why that's a totally valid opinion as well.
I was struggling with this when we were doing our research for this episode. Like, can we recommend it? Because we usually like picking things where like, oh yeah, go read this, go watch this, go play this. We love it. And it's like,
Yeah.
I do love this because of when I consumed it as a teenager. This is like,
Yeah.
we talk about, what is the word that you use? Awakening? Or
Yeah, like
what is it?
I don't know, your romantic awakening.
Yeah, you're like awakening books. This book has imprinted on me as a person. Like rereading this, I read things and was like, oh shit, this is why I'm like this. This is why I
Yeah.
like this trope. This is why I seek out these romance books. And I didn't realize that, but I do have to say, this is not about, quality or whatever. I didn't super enjoy rereading all the books. I'm pretty sure I blacked out while I read Midnight Sun because I didn't remember finishing it. My Kindle has informed me I definitely did. We found a Discord message where I told Miko that I finished it. We forensically confirmed that I finished this book. I don't even remember finishing it. But yeah, this is all, I guess, getting into how to consume the thing.
Okay, we can understand why you might not want to, but there are going to be people out there who do want to. Okay, how we recommend you consume it though, speaking of extremely large books, we felt like maybe our preferred way, if you're totally new to Twilight, would be to read the first book, and then if you wanted to, just watch all the movies. I like the movies. I mean, there are funny things about the movies, but there's a lot of characters, a lot of actors in those movies are doing their very best by these characters, okay? And they definitely have a quality of like, we're a little bit in on the joke. We know that this is something a lot of people love, and we also know this is something that a lot of people don't understand. So we're going to try to give you both in the same movie. I especially like the 2 Breaking Dawn movies, which when they announced there were going to be 2 of them, I was like, there's no way. I hadn't read the books. My friends had told me about it. And it was kind of that time where, like, because Harry Potter did it, every franchise was like, we can break the second movie into 2 movies too. This one, it's like stunning that they were able to do it. And they do it in a really funny way, in my opinion. The content that they added is really good.
If you read the books and you never watched the movies, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it, especially the last one. But yeah, I would say exactly what Miko said. I think the first book still is like fine to read, like as an adult, semi-enjoyable and interesting. I did find it to be like, it was difficult for me to get through all of them again as an adult. So try the first book. If you like it, read more. If you don't. But the movies are pretty fun.
There's a lot of other things that we talked about earlier. You don't have to read them to listen to the next episode, but if you wanted to, there's, as we said, Midnight Sun. That's the Edward retelling. There's a short story called The Brief Second Life of Bree Tanner. There's Life and Death. That's the one where the genders are swapped. There's also a graphic novel series. I think there might be like a Korean one and a Japanese manga one. And just because it's funny and entertaining, I posted the titles of the different chapters here.
These are funny because they are incredibly accurate, but also like as direct translations, awkward, I think.
Yeah, so this will be our only brief tangent into this. But in the Japanese manga, the Twilight book is broken down into several smaller volumes or chapters. And the titles are The Boy Whom I Love is a Vampire. Accurate. Blood Tastes Sadness.
Accurate.
The Vampire Family in the Darkness.
Also accurate.
The Fang Whispers Sweetly.
This feels heavily inspired by Midnight Sun. In Midnight Sun, the phrase, the venom filled my mouth, is said so often. And if I never see that phrase written ever again, it will be too soon.
The Month of the Wolf and The Angel of Sighing.
There's a lot of sighing. Okay, I have another tangent because my head is so filled with Twilight facts that we're not going to get to. about the Angel of Sighing. So, assuming we're talking about Edward, apparently, I saw this in several listicles of facts about Twilight you didn't know or whatever. And there's this belief that floats around that apparently Robert Pattinson almost got fired, quote unquote, almost got fired from the movies because in the first movie, he was being a really emo Edward. And they were like, you know, you have to be happier. Like, look at all these times in the book where he smiles, or all the times in the script where he's supposed to smile, and you're like not really doing it. And apparently his counter argument was, here's every place in the book where he frowns. And supposedly they made a compromise.
Oh my gosh, that is a good anecdote. Well, with that in mind, go off and watch your Angel of Sighing if you haven't already. And we will be back in the next podcast episode for you. We are the Hot Baddies Club.
The podcast website is hotbaddies.club. Head over to links.hotbaddies.club for links to all our social media. You can join our Discord community by going to discord.hotbaddies.club. Our theme song is The Hot Baddies Club by Ryako. You can find the song and the rest of her amazing music on her Bandcamp website, ryako.bandcamp.com. That's ryako.bandcamp.com.
I'm Miko. You can find me online as Dr. Mikachu on Twitter and on Twitch.
And I'm Liz. You can find me on Twitter at LizMakes and everywhere else at Illuminated Space.
That's it for Team Edward. Until next time.
You've awakened inside me a feeling I cannot deny. You impress me, possess me, the thought of you gets me so high. Wanna stay here forever, the rest of the world can go by, but I don't know why.
I am not physically, emotionally, or mentally ready to record this.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just so nervous.
Well, what's the worst that can happen?
It could be bad, I guess. I don't know.
It can't possibly be the worst Twilight podcast ever made.
That's probably true.